So, Heather,
Yes.
later this year, here in a month and a half, we're going to be doing an entire month of movies that you pick.
I'm so excited.
But we're getting a little bit of a head start here because we're talking about a movie you picked right now during the spooky season. But I don't know how spooky this movie is. It is technically on Shudder, though, so it can be found in the repository for other spooky. But yeah, I don't think the movie's supposed to be spooky. I think the movie's supposed to be a lark, as they would say. Right? Like,
It's a horror comedy
right.
with music.
Right. Exactly. A horror comedy with music is a perfect way of putting it. And on this episode of the Culture Cast, I'm still your host, Chris Dashu, much to the chagrin of many. And I am joined by my good friend all the way from Noise Junkies and MondoHeather.com, your friend and mine, Heather Jane.
Hello. Thank you for letting me do that. I sound so greedy, though. I'm like, 1 month isn't enough. I need world domination now.
I mean, complaining. And yeah, like Heather mentioned, we're talking about on this episode, this bonus episode of the Culture Cast, because it's spooky season, folks, and no time like the present to overwork yourself than the season of the year you enjoy the most. We're going to be talking about 1985's Hard Rock Zombies.
Are you sick of borrowing video movies that are exactly like other tapes you've seen before? You know, that are so predictable you've guessed the ending in the first couple of minutes? Well, cop this. This film is so weird, off the planet, incredibly ridiculous, unbelievably far-fetched, depraved and lacking in taste that I can relate to it. I mean, check this gig eating himself for dinner, or this bloke with his three-handed handshake. Now that's what I call good viewing. So next time you're after something worth watching, hop down to your local video store and grab a copy of Hard Rock Zombies. After all, it's just a bit of all-round good, clean fun.
So before we talk about the movie, you can check this movie out right now if you would like on your own on Shudder, which this time of the year, if you're not actively subscribed to Shudder or watching horror movies, are you really part of the bandwagon like everybody else? You should check this out on Shudder. So there's that if you're looking for this movie. As for the movie itself, it is written and directed by Krishna Shah, produced by a whole lot of people who are, again, I have questions about some things with this movie, as like the amount of people involved in this movie seems like a lot. And the film is about a band of 4 hard rockers who get killed by Hitler and his Nazi cult, only to be brought back to life to seek revenge on the Nazis that killed. Heather, you picked the movie and programmed this episode, so I'm going to kick it to you first. Why are we talking Hard Rock Zombies, and what are your thoughts?
Well, it's, first of all, it's fun. I thought it would be like, this will be a fun one. And especially because, you know, you mentioned in the spooky season, to me, the fun of spooky season, of course, for some of us, every season is spooky season, but it's good sometimes to mix it up. Like, it's, you know, you can have everything from something like that's seriously disturbing kind of art house, like say McNaughton's Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, or you could have something a little more gothic, like a Mark Bava movie, or you could have a movie that you'd probably rent on video back in the day, because it's called Hard Rock Zombies. You're like, well, I love zombies. I love hard rock. Sounds good. And I also have, like, honestly, I have a love and a fascination for the intersection of music and horror. And this is definitely, especially in the 1980s, one of the top ones. Though it's probably one of the, I think, the lesser loved ones, but I think there's a lot of charm to this one. And I think it actually even has some kind of pseudo subversive political commentary in there. Do I think it's intentional? Probably not, but it is there. And I'm looking forward to talking about it. And also, I just wanted to know, like, because obviously, I mean, we're not just podcast people, we're friends in real life and in the podcasting realm. And you know so much about film. I was like, I want to see what Chris thinks about this. So I just thought it'd be a fun one to kind of delve into.
And what better director to pick than Krishna Shah, who is an Indian American director? who directed
I did not
this
do
movie.
that on purpose. I forgot about that till I was like doing my notes for this episode. And I was like, holy shit, Bollywood Cinema Club.
I mean,
Come on.
kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, Krishna Shah is apparently a very good example of one of, if not the first, Indian director to really have a presence in the United States. And want to say this movie is a success of his. There were other movies that came before this that don't seem to be as successful. But I mean, in 78, he directed Shalimar, which is an Indian film through and through. So, I mean, again, like it's interesting that this is the director of this movie. It's not an Indian, obviously.
It's most definitely not an Indian movie.
Right. But there is music, to be fair. It was just interesting to see the name like Krishna Shah. Like that is definitely an Indian man. And it actually is, which is crazy. But I think this movie's fun. Obviously, I mean, I'm not going to say the movie goes on a little long, but I think it probably goes on maybe like 10 minutes too long. But yeah, I mean, again, like it is a low budget comedy horror movie from the mid 80s, which is like the prime time to do horror movies in terms of like this kind of horror movie. The mid 80s, the 80s in general is the time and the place. It went some places I wasn't expecting. That's for sure. Wasn't expecting Nazis and Hitler and all of those things to be part of this narrative, seemingly just about a band that gets murdered and is brought back to life. What's weird is I also thought this movie could have ended at like the hour mark. And then it's like, oh no, by the way, all those zombies are coming back to life. And I was like, oh, okay. Because otherwise this movie wrapped itself up pretty quick and pretty easily too. But no, I had fun with it. I had fun with it. Again, it's just, it wouldn't have been something I would have gone out of my way to watch because it's not that I don't like these kinds of horror movies, but I have a hard time finding the right ones to watch. And most of the time when I've taken the plunge on something like this from the 80s, it's not good. So having someone else vouch for it obviously makes this a lot better. But I mean, these kinds of mid-80s horror movies are a dime a dozen, but the ones that are really good stand out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no. And as far as feeling a little too long, number one, I agree. I do feel like there is definitely some things that could have been trimmed a little bit. It's definitely not a deal breaker. But also the whole thing is just original, like sort of nexus for this was originally, it was just going to be like a 20-minute kind of short that was featured in the movie. Another one of Krishna Shah's movies, American Drive-In. And I believe it was the film that was going to be playing like at the drive-in, but for whatever reason, probably because I don't know, it seemed like such a fun thing to expand upon and definitely a marketable thing to expand upon. They turned it into a full-length feature. And I'm so glad they did, especially because like when you have a movie like this where there's not really any big names,
Right.
but there are people attached that have some kind of cult acclaim. I mean, like, because from what I can tell, I wasn't able to find out a ton about the whole band as far as the people playing the band, which is never named in the movie, which is strange.
They're just a band.
They're just a band.
They even have an
band.
agent character come in, and he never says the band.
Yeah. Even though he like keeps calling people like,
Get them a contract. We got to get them signed. I mean, what this movie strikes me as is somebody saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre and was like, but what if they were a band that the hitchhiker stumbled onto? And what if the hitchhiker was gorgeous as opposed to being, nasty and gross? Like, isn't that the setup of this movie? Like, there's that scene that's literally the scene from Texas Chainsaw where there's them sitting at one end of the van and then the person sitting at the other end. Like, there's even a scene like that in this movie. But when they get to the house, it also kind of becomes Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's
family
definitely
and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's definitely more chainsaw. Which that cool barrel. I didn't even think about that when they get to the house. But yeah, I mean the hitchhiker instead of Ed Neal. Thank God, I do love Texas Chainsaw. But it was like you just took me to a place there. I'm like, oh man. Yeah, we get like this actress Lisa Toots, I believe is, and she's like basically she looks like a ballerina if a ballerina was on the cover of Easy Rider magazine. Like she's totally got a great like 80s kind of sleazy, trashy lingerie kind of aesthetic. A lot of like not quite spandex, very spandexy, spandex adjacent clothing. And she's great. And the band, our unnamed band, the lead singer is played by actor and singer. He's definitely more known as a musician. Actually, E.J. Curse, who was in the band Silent Rage, which is, I mean, the music in this film's a little better than Silent Rage, but Silent Rage were famously produced by Gene Simmons. I think they opened for Kiss a few times in the late 80s. And there is a connective tissue because one of the co-producers with Gene Simmons was this guy named Paul Sabu, and who was the son of the famous Hollywood actor Sabu. And Paul Sabu actually wrote and did all the music for this movie. I don't know if that's him singing, but I'm guessing it is, judging by what I could find out. So, but E.J. Curse, or I'm trying to remember how he's credited in the movie. I don't think he's called E.J. Curse in the movie, but that's what he's known as now. Also was, played, I think, like Tarzan and Dracula at Universal Studios for years in the 90s. Still does music. He's in Gilby Clarke's band from Guns N' Roses. Seems like a really cool cat. And he, everybody sent their thoughts. This is the I guess the beauty of social media. He's on Instagram. And I was actually curious today. I was like, well, what is his Instagram? What is this guy up to? You know? And I found out Gilby Clarke and all that. But he had a blind Chihuahua named Cheech that went on to across the Rainbow Bridge. And it's like, oh man, this guy loves this dog. Like, I love this guy. No, like, oh,
him and Mickey Rourke.
Oh my God, you know I love Mickey Rourke. Like, oh Jesus. But and I think he's really good here. Like, he plays Jesse. We do get a name for his character,
right?
And Jesse's fascinating because I mean, I don't know if this film really has a true hero, but I guess he's close to it. Him and the manager are probably kind of neck and neck for the heroes. But we see Jesse not interested in all these like grown-ass ladies hitting on him backstage, but then he sees this like very pretty teenage brunette, and he's like, are you going to the show, little girl, or something like that? And it's like, and she's like, Jesse, and she talks like that, like, don't go. Oh yeah, the town they're going to is called The Town. The Grand Guignol. Now, granted, I would totally move to a town called that just for the name because I'm that extra. But there's all these little details in this.
It was pretty on the nose. I mean, I appreciate it. I don't know who that's for other than people like us, I guess, right? Like,
that's plenty.
Yeah.
That's plenty right there.
I find it interesting that, like, really outside of the Jesse character, none of the other characters are really given a characterization. They're just kind of the band members. And like you mentioned, like, Jesse seems to be a little bit of the focus along with their manager. That's kind of what I mean, it's a horror movie, so I kind of understand why some of the dudes are just fodder for the canon. But I kind of wish that I got a better sense of those band members since we follow them most of the movie. But to be fair, once they die, it's like, it kind of doesn't matter anymore anyways.
No, I 100% agree, especially because, and I've seen this movie now 3 times. Because I've rewatched it for this.
Right.
The drummer is really funny. Like, the drummer is actually like, he makes the most of his limited time. But if you watch him, that dude's a scream. He's a fucking riot. But also, I think E.J. Kurtz is he gets one of the funniest. There are 2 lines in this movie, actually 3, that I think are really hilarious. And the first one is Jesse in the van is playing this kind of cool bass riff. And one of the guy's like, oh, what is that? What are you playing? And he's like, oh, I got it from a book. And the guy, and I think it's the drummer, goes, oh, what? And then you go, but then, like, what's funnier, that or Jesse going, a book?
It's pretty good.
Like, that shit's funny. But yeah, I would like, I mean, as much as they kind of had to do filler to expand this, you do think we kind of would have gotten more. And especially because I think some of the guys are definitely musicians. If I had to guess, I'm guessing that for authenticity, the casting went to like specifically recruited people that were musicians in LA.
Yeah, it seems like it.
And
they all look the part.
They definitely do. Now, I have to admit, I do have the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray. I have not cracked it open yet. I need to. I should have done it for this, but I also have Shudder, and that's what
that's where I watched it.
And I originally watched it on the Night Flight app. So it's, which is also a great app for spooky season for everybody curious. But yeah, so I'm sure Vinegar Syndrome are great about having extras. So there's probably more intel there. But yeah, I mean, Jesse's funny, but he has that skeezy mustache. Like he totally kind of is like a good looking version of the guy that does hit on teenage girls.
Right.
And for anybody, especially girls from the that grew up in the 90s, or I'm sure even now, I don't think things change that much. There's most guys that specifically prey on young girls, like even the ones that might be technically classically good looking, there's always something a little off about them. They don't look like Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused. I can tell you that much. It's usually more kind of like the guy that runs a tilt-a-whirl. Yeah. But so this is definitely more of a Hollywood version of it. Because, EJ is a good looking guy. But that mustache is a little sleazy. And he's got the feathered hair. Yeah. Like it's a good sleazy combination. I respect that. Also, we get
feathered hair.
Perfect. It's a coif.
Yeah.
It's a coif. I like kind of accented that a little hard. A coif. We do get some beefcake though. Because we get female nudity, which is like pretty much like the requisite of this era. Like
at this point, like 85, if there are not breasts in this movie, I would be surprised.
Yeah, we get boobies, we get butts, but we get the band in their skivvies, which is nice. And the drummer's totally wearing a banana. What do they call those? Banana hammocks?
Banana hammock, yeah.
He's wearing a slingshot, and Jesse's like full on tidy whities, but he's having to do the whole thing where he's like got the package out and then he's tucking it in as if to like assert his male dominance as the lead singer. Like
that's like 5-6 minutes into the movie, something like that. It's pretty early. It's pretty early on too.
It's very early, but I appreciated quality. When they get to the house, I don't know if you recognize there's two little people.
I sure did.
And one of the actors, I did not realize this until, again, researching for this. Did you recognize one of them?
Yeah, he was from, I think Phil Fondacaro was in.
Yes.
He's in something that I watched recently. Oh, it was Doll Man versus Demonic Toys.
Oh
he's also in
God.
Bordello of Blood.
He's in a ton of stuff. He's in like Willow.
Right. Yeah.
Phil Fondacaro, I can't say his name. We say that Fondacaro?
Fondacaro. Yeah.
Great actor. Like he's one of those guys where I'm like, can we use him in more stuff? Like he's good. It's not just like, oh, he's good for, a little
what they
person.
needed him for.
Yeah. It's like, man, just cast, like, is he the right actor? Cast him.
Well, he was in a lot of stuff in the 80s, right? He was in Ghoulies.
Oh.
Return of the Jedi and Under the Rainbow. So, I mean, he's worked on stuff, but yeah, I mean, he's great at this. I didn't expect it to be Hitler, though. Can I just say that for the record? Like,
we're jumping into the Nazis.
I don't get it. Like, I mean, it's weird because I wasn't expecting it to be Hitler. Like,
that could be the name of a new podcast.
I didn't expect it to be Hitler.
Who's
that? Anybody ever expect Hitler? Yeah. Do we ever expect Hitler, frankly? It was a weird left turn.
It was. But that's the thing. And I've seen some people say this is a negative about this movie online where it's like, this movie has everything in the kitchen sink. And I'm like, yes. And what's your problem? Like, oh no, something's fun. Oh, we can't have that. Like, it's just don't be ninnies. Don't be enjoy a turn, a tonal. And I mean, I want a total whiplash because it's to me, it's within the spirit of this whole film. But, for context, the old man, the family, the beautiful blonde takes them to her family's estate. And there's like an old man I think he's in a wheelchair, but his wife is. And there's something off about them. And in fact, there's something off about everybody because there's like the guy that beheads a chicken, not for real. I don't think you don't see any actual animal decapitation at least. And he looks kind of like a guy that I used to work with, but that's neither here nor there. I was like, oh my God. You start immediately seeing, we got the two little people and one of them immediately hold like hands. I think it's Phil hands a severed hand over, like, let me give you a hand, which is a cheesy joke, but the hand looks really good. Like that's a really good, like a prop.
Yeah. I don't have any complaints with any of the effects in this movie. They're like, low budget enough that it works, but they don't get in the way of my enjoyment of the movie. Makes sense.
Oh no. Well, and you know why? One of the FX people was John Carl Buechler, or I think it's actually Beekler. I think it's pronounced Beekler. And he did effects work for a ton of movies. He worked on Reanimator. He worked on Carnivore. Holy shit.
And then Carnivore. That's a weird ass movie. Talking about weird fucking movie.
Have you done Carnivore for Culture
A
Castle?
long time ago. We
Maybe
talked
we
to
should
Raphael
revisit.
Sparge for that episode, even, I believe, because he's in.
Damn.
Isn't Raphael Sparge he's the lead in that movie, I believe, actually.
I need
That
to
movie is
revisit
insane.
that.
Dinosaurs coming out of human beings like Alien.
Yeah, but they're dinosaurs. I would have loved to have been in that pitch meeting. Just to be,
Yeah, huh? You got this
Yeah.
dinosaurs popping out of human.
or the meeting for Hard Rock Zombies. Okay, we got a rock beat. We're going to call them hard rock, but really it's AOR, kind of new wave pop rock. It's not really.
It's not even
This-
hair metal.
This is not metal at all. But some of the songs I think are pretty catchy. I think it's good. I've heard worse. Certainly heard worse in movies.
Well, and I think, again, like when you have a band in the movie, you need to really make sure that I don't know, like I would say make sure that the music that you're having us listen to is worth listening to. And I think this movie does that rather well. But that's like a pretty hard, that feels like a hard thing to do because I've seen plenty of movies with music that are not at all.
Oh God, no. And especially when it's supposed to be something good and you're like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
what is
people are
this?
reacting positively to bad music. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. Like a good example of that would be, oh God, what was that? I watched it last year. I watched a bunch of like 80s, like metal hard rock movies. Like
Sure.
I watched October Blood, Black Roses, which actually Black Roses as a film I enjoyed a lot, but and they did use an actual band, save for, I think the singer that was, King Cobra, which does have Carmen Appice on drums. Carmen Appice is an amazing drummer, but King Cobra were kind of like a little bit on the lamers.
Right.
Like not, again, opinion. Everything's objective, but it was weird because it's supposed to be like this evil satanic band polluting the youth of this town. And it's like, you might as well have gotten like Bon Jovi. Like this is not threatening. Hard Rock Zombies, at least the music, it's catchy, it's fun. And the band, this is out of almost all of the films of this genre, of this tiny subgenre, maybe the only film where the issue isn't metal. The issue isn't the band are the villains, they're not polluting the youth. The actual villains, and this is actually one of the reasons why I really love this movie. It's the Nazis, but the Nazis, we find out, are basically in charge of the town. And them and the townspeople who are immediately overreacting to this band being there and banning hard rock, banning all rock music, breaking records, destroying records, overreacting, basically trying to control their children. Is that familiar?
Yeah, I was about to say there are parts of this movie that feel oddly topical, and that like weird fear baiting thing of like they're a metal band and the downfall of our town and blah, they're tempting the kids, like fucking time travel to 2023 for that one. Like,
yeah,
just replace metal with any other of your thing of choice right now, and it's the exact same argument.
Well, and especially given the climax of the film where what's left of the town, I would say spoiler. This movie came out in 85.
It's for 10 years is it. If it's past 10 years, you should just watch the movie and worry about spoilers with new things. So
precisely. But the one, like this girl, Cassie, who's the teenager that Jesse's in love with, and even sings a love song. That's the worst, is when he's like, I thought all day about you. You can at least tell me your name. I wrote a song. And it's like, ladies, especially if you're underage, but in general, if you've just met a guy and you've barely known him for a day, not even a full 24 hours, he's like, I wrote a song about you. Fucking run. Okay. Book, that's red flag all over it. But Cassie is like this sweet girl, and she's like the whole thing is they think that they have to sacrifice a virgin to the zombies to cure the curse. And these guys who had no problem like complaining about the band and, it's going to corrupt our youth and the kids are going to start masturbating or whatever and doing drugs. All of a sudden, but they have no problem sacrificing this poor girl to basically be gang raped by the dead, which is the implication.
Great title for a song, by the way.
God, if Morbid Angel hasn't written it,
gang raped by the dead.
Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse. That's more of a Cannibal Corpse.
What? Like, gang raped by the dead?
I mean, they do have a song called "I Come Blood."
No, who doesn't? Like,
that's oh my God, you got to get the chick fan.
I know.
Yeah. I actually had a friend who that happened to.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. And it was tied to a movie that I did commentary for. I'll plug it later. But I mean, this was his incident was years ago. He's no longer with us, but his passing has nothing to do with the blood ejaculation.
Yeah, he kind of seems like he was, though, now that you put it that way.
It probably didn't help.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. Anywho, but yeah, no, there's a great, like, very, like, anti-moral majority message through this film. And I fucking love that because of all, and even the ones, and I like a lot of the films in this subgenre. And that includes Rock and Roll Nightmare, which at least the metal isn't evil, but it's literally John Michael Thor as an intercessor fighting the devil puppet. It's amazing. I do like that movie a lot. Rocktober Blood's a really great sleazy slasher film. Has a really good song in it. But it's not really, there's not really a moral message there. Yeah, the aforementioned Black Roses, the problem is metal. Trick or Treat, the problem is metal. The Gate, the problem is metal. And again, these are all films like I think are great. I love The Gate.
Never seen it.
Oh my God, it's a film like that. Like kid, like I watched it as a kid, but it was actually appropriate for a kid to watch, as opposed to most of the stuff I watched as a kid, which was not appropriate for a kid to watch. But yeah, but that's the thing. Even these movies, a lot of times, were very conservative. Horror can be a very conservative genre, but to me, when horror is done right, is when it gets fun, and and when it gets a little bit like, no, let's. The real kind of evils of humanity. And yeah, this is a horror comedy. It's light. It's a B movie. It's fun. It's schlocky. These are all words I use with complete adoration. But I love the fact that sort of narrative is hidden in this film. Like of all the films, they have this very yeah, fuck the status quo. Fuck Reagan's bullshit. Fuck fascism. That's there. I mean, think about it. The Nazis are hiding out in California. We literally have California über alles. The dead Kennedys were right.
Well, and they also mentioned like that it was the U.S. government that seemingly helped too, which is weird.
Yeah, that's very cynical. You're getting into some really like dark territory if you really think about it, which again, I love that. That's one of the things that got me into writing and talking about films is like when you find movies that have these hidden and I mean, they're maybe not so hidden if you take the time, but I think so many people just kind of take surface level stuff with film. But, where's the fun in that? You want to dig a little bit. You want to find the treasure.
Well, and that's the other thing about this movie that I do appreciate is, it knows what it is. It's not trying to be any more than that. And there's something to be said for that in this day and age in terms of like horror comedies, because now everything has to be something else. And this just kind of goes, well, 4 members die and come back to life. And that's the movie. Like, and let the train go on the tracks from there and see where it gets. And I enjoyed where this movie, I think I was, like I said, I was most surprised how long it takes to get to the kind of the moment where the movie turns. Cause it's about like halfway through the movie, essentially, that they finally come back to life, isn't it? Like it's 46 minutes into the movie where they've been turned into zombies. I am surprised it takes that long. I'm not complaining, but like, is it odd it takes half of the movie to get to the zombie part of the movie?
Maybe, but I think it's also wanting to give us time to kind of like the band and spend time with the band because they're all, Jesse's predilection. Is it appropriate love for Cassie aside? They're all affable guys. Like they're fun. Granted, there is one character in the house. Like, I think her name's I don't know if it's supposed to be Eva Braun.
It's supposed to be Eva Braun.
That's what I thought. But she is this image. You see her in a wheelchair in an attic as a werewolf holding 2 knives. Like, what? That's fucking metal. Like, hey, dudes, got Eva Braun as a fucking werewolf. And guess what? She's got knives. It's not enough for her to be a werewolf. She's got to be a knife-wielding werewolf. I love that shit. I love it.
Yeah, it's, I mean, again, like the movie kind of rebels in how wild it gets, and I appreciate it. Again, I don't know how well the movie works when they're like, and now everybody in the town is back alive. Like, I don't know, like that, the third act of the movie does not work as well for me as the first 2 acts. And that's primarily because, like, again, like I feel like they've already killed the villains. I mean, the villains come back, but like, okay, like it's made clear to us that these zombies can handle themselves. So do we need to watch this happen again? I don't know. I was a little surprised that the movie had more to say when it was like very clearly at a moment where the movie could just end.
Yeah, no, that's that's
Right?
fair.
Like, couldn't the movie
That's
end at like
fair.
the hour? Could the movie not end at like the hour mark, essentially? Like, and because essentially everything happens up until like the 60-minute mark, and then we get to see the townspeople die and come back to life. But like, it takes a good 40 minutes to get to that point. So it's weird to me because everything gets concluded really quickly, and then they're like, nope, they're coming back to life. They're actually like, the undead as well. And so, yeah, I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, wow, there's still another 45 minutes of this movie left.
Yeah, but that journey, and I mean, by the way, everything you said, honestly, it's accurate. Like, I can't.
Right.
I agree with it, but it's still, I don't know. It's kind of like you're kind of, by the time you get to that mark, you're already kind of down for the journey.
Sure.
So, and you get to hear, I do think the best piece of music is the Resurrection
Agree.
song. That's pretty fucking tasty. And
I like that usage of that, and it comes back a couple times, and it ends up being kind of the thing that causes the third act to happen the way that it does. Everybody comes back to life. It's because of the song that they're playing. So it's the music in this movie is good. I don't know how like memorable it is, but like the music stuff, like the non-sung music, is really.
oh God, no, I love the instrumentals. There's one in particular used when we see, and I love the editing matched to it. Like the film editing is really great here, where we're seeing the different members of the band starting to get killed off, and it's intercut with like. And it looks like she's already in her zombie form, but it's the blonde. And there's some confusion because I think she has a different name on IMDb. But if you look at the track listing for the album, her name is Angel.
Okay.
So I'll just call her that. Not the Hollywood hooker by night, honor student by day, Angel. That's a different Angel. But it's like her doing this great sort of dance. Like, and it's like a montage of death and this sort of almost like dissonant music. Like there's like almost sort of a nice like chaos feel to it that I think works really well. It's definitely not rote by any means. Like when I see people kind of dog on this movie, I'm always a little surprised. Cause first of all, I mean, to me, like when you're making a decision to watch something that's got like a really fun, colorful, kind of cartoony title, like, to me, it's like you've bought the ticket for the fun ride. Are you going to complain that the fun ride isn't Hamlet?
Right.
Like, or are you just going to be like, all right, I don't know what I'm going into, but I hope it's fun. I hope it's colorful. I hope it's weird. I hope it's something I'd never seen before. And yeah, this film, but the editing is really, really good, which I did not expect, to be honest. Just because I don't always expect to see real like editing that wows me and most things. Like I do love some great editing. And yeah, the instrumentals are great. Some of the pop songs are a lot of fun. Like there's that one like shake, shake, shake it up, baby. Like that one's catchy. That was great. Cassie's love song. It's weird because I don't technically like it, but it gets in my head. But I think it's because that creepy line, I'm so in love, but you're so young.
Yeah.
I was like, but think about it. I mean, Winger had a huge hit with this theme a few years later after this movie with 17. Her daddy says she's too young, but she's old enough for me. That was a huge hit. Also, Kip Winger should have played a werewolf or something. That man is very hirsute. him and Paul Stanley. They could have been the werewolves of.
I think it's interesting for me. It feels like it's intentionally subversive having this band member going after this like child essentially. Like I don't know to what end that needed to be in the movie. I think maybe it just speaks to that tradition in music of that being the case. Elvis Presley. I mean,
God,
I know, but everybody wants to. Yeah, I like like the Beatles. I mean, again, like that the tradition of musicians being interested in women far too young for them. And I'm not saying anything wrong with a May-December romance. I'm talking about a 30-year-old and a 16-year-old. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what's going on here. It's kind of weird that that's our hero, one of our heroes.
Well, and their love is true. Like we get like
supposedly.
It varies. It's not I don't know if there was enough thought maybe put into that, but it kind of adds to the weirdness of the thing where you're just like, especially when we see them in zombie form doing the song. So it's like, we have a zombie now singing about his forbidden love for this teenager. Now, in fairness, I mean, we're never told explicitly, I think, what Cassie's age is, but should clearly be portrayed as like teenager.
Yeah.
And
it's a little much.
Like, it's not, I don't know why it makes me laugh. It's just the weirdness of a zombie just being like, oh, Cassie. I will say another high point, to EJ's performance is Jesse. If that's not him singing, his lip syncing is really fucking good.
Yeah.
Because some of the guys in the band, the drummer's hilarious, but you can tell like that he is not trying. He's not even sitting down. He's doing like this half-ass kind of like I have no rhythm, and I'm like, dude, he's off, but he's funny. You can go with the fantasy, whatever. I thought EJ was maybe, I hope it's, I don't know. I still don't even know if he's saying it. I mean, but even if he's not, or especially if he's not, dudes, you could buy it. He's selling it very well.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's the only one who looks like he knows what he's doing. Obviously, I mean, again, my assumption is those other guys are musicians, but he really goes for it as the lead singer. And again, I think he's an interesting character. I think he's a fun character. Honestly, feel like, and it's going to sound crazy, I wish there was more of the zombies in the second half of the movie.
I agree. Now, I wish there was more of the band. And right. I do think Jesse is an interesting character. I think EJ's really great as him. Like, he has a good presence. And yeah, actually, of the band, he's the only one that strikes me as having, and I mean, yeah, no shit, sure, like, yeah, he's obviously still in hard rock bands to this day. But like, you could just tell by his presence, okay, this guy does have some hard rock like roots, where some of the guys, like the keyboardist, I mean, he could be in Kajagoogoo if we're going to be realistic. Like, I mean, it's not dogging him. I love synth pop, but there's some cross-pollination here. And the drummer is great, but he could totally, he looks like he should be in like a Skinner. He's got Skinnered hair.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's not the hair that the other three characters have, that's for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do. I think like if a film has you being like, man, I wish I had more of this, that's usually a positive sign. Cause things are bad when you're like, oh, thank God that bullshit's over.
Well, and to your point, yeah, I was not expecting once they became zombies to have a musical number where, again, like what them being zombies in this movie matters is nothing. That's the funny part. Like, they're undead, but so what? They still clearly have autonomy. The guy is singing songs about how much he loves this woman, not how much he wants to eat her brains. So it's, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, right? Like, it's weird. Yeah. Like, the zombies they're just undead versions of them. There doesn't seem to have been any loss of anything, clearly, because they can sing, they can dance. And I would assume if you're a zombie, those aren't things you could easily do.
They drive a van?
Yeah, like the full on autonomy completely. So I was not expecting, let's just put it that way.
Do you think that, like Bob from Day of the Dead would be friends with these guys?
I mean, I would have to assume so, given that they can talk and he can talk.
That would be amazing. Just saying, crossover universe.
Then that's the thing, this is the zombie question, right? Like, are you a fan of zombie things? Because like, I've kind of had the love of zombie stuff beaten out of me, like, is what it feels like.
Oh God, newer zombie stuff, 120. Right. I feel like I'm not ready yet, but I feel like the light is at the end of the tunnel where I could maybe start watching newer stuff. Because I know there's a lot of like, there's always great movies being made. And I just like, especially once Walking Dead hit, there was a period of time where just everything was zombies. I mean, in the cultural pollination, I mean, you would drive around town and see people that had like bumper stickers that say zombie defense vehicle. And it's like,
cool.
Yeah. Okay, dude.
I actually know somebody that has that on their car.
Are they cool?
The answer.
Just
made fun of it. So the answer.
But, yeah, but and then speaking of uncool, like having to hear nerds, like horror nerds, debate over like, and I've ranted about this on other shows, but like, well, zombies can't be fast because blah blah blah. They're not fucking real, okay? So just calm down. It's a fantasy. It's made up. Have fun with it. No,
fictional characters. fictional character.
Yeah. No, I agree. This film, I think I was open to it because it was older, and I'd seen like a little like review of it on YouTube. There's a guy I follow, Brandon's Cult Reviews, he actually does really, really great stuff. Sometimes YouTube, like, well, anything on YouTube, like it's good, it's bad, it's like people. Some of it's great, a lot of it's fine, probably middling, and then some of it's really terrible. But Brandon does great work, and I was like, man, this movie actually looks like a lot of fun. And I was so glad I checked it out because, yeah, it is. But no, as far as like newer zombie stuff, and I loved zombie stuff as a kid.
Same.
Like as a kid and teenager, fucking lived for it. And just like, yeah, that was a rough period of time. Everything had fucking zombies. And it was just like too much. It was too much.
Zombies and bacon were a thing at the same time. People were like, everything's better with bacon. I was equating that with like people being, I love zombies. It's like, you like Walking Dead. That's what you like. Like, well, I'm not trying to be a dickhead, but when people are like, I like zombie stuff, it's like, I like Walking Dead, like, which is like one kind of zombie thing. And fine. That show's still fucking on. Like, then it's having 3 spinoffs and shit. Okay.
It's massive. It's more fertile than a Duggar.
Pretty much. I could not believe that they had not just one show, but 2 shows and like 2 or 3 spinoffs now as well. Like it's a lot of stuff for just a zombie show, which again speaks to, I guess, the inherent pop culture love of zombies. But for a while there was just zombie this, zombie that, zombie this, zombie that. And I was like, I'm kind of over the zombie thing.
Yeah, no, same. And if, I don't know if, I'm sure the audio is bleeding over. My dog at the background has apparently very strong opinions to this matter too.
Right. He doesn't like zombies either.
Brody Lee's burned out on him. No, I totally get that. And I think you're right, especially to me, it's kind of like when Marvel and Star Wars, got back huge, like gangbusters in the cultural, like lexicon and popularity. It's like all of a sudden you'd be talking to like somebody at a day job that would be like, oh yeah, I'm a total geek. And used to, if somebody said they're a geek, they're probably into like deep cut, a little more deeper cut stuff. I don't even say like super deep cut. I mean, but it'd be like somebody in their 20s that knows about Buck Rogers of the 20th century or something like that, maybe, or they actually read. Like they say they're into comic books because they read them, not because they watch movies adapted from comic books, but they don't actually read the comic books. But that's now a thing, which I'm not judging it. Everybody's journey is different. But also, if you're into something that makes millions and billions of dollars and a shit ton of people love it, you're not a nerd, really. You're part of the mainstream. And that's okay. Like, don't be ashamed of it.
Heather is nerd gating, everybody. Heather is nerd gate.
Heather nerd gating Drake.
I mean, I'm with you.
At your service.
It's hard. It is hard to be like, oh, I love Iron Man. It's like, who doesn't? Like, and who hasn't seen it? Like,
it's like saying I like cookies. Like, like, of course, cool, but I'm like, I kind of want to know something more about why do you like, what is it about that moves you? I would say that about anything. I'd say that about like, if somebody said Hard Rock Zombies was my favorite movie, first of all, I'd be like, okay, fucking props. That's fascinating. Why? I would, I always encourage, like, we over here in the Culture Cast encourage deeper discourse on all levels. We all tend to, we don't believe in gatekeeping, but we do believe in discourse, non-shaming. Is that a thing? Whatever. But, I don't know. I was trying to do a rhyme and it sucked. I should leave that shit for the musicians.
For the rock zombies?
Like for EJ Kurse and Paul Sabu. Yeah, for the musicians tied to this movie and not myself. But,
I'm with you though. Like, I'm with you in that sentiment. Like, there is part of me that sits here and looks at Hard Rock Zombies and other movies like this, and I'm just like, is this a thing that like anybody would care about anymore? And like I don't think they would, because zombies aren't as much in the zeitgeist, but like a weird zombie movie would be totally a thing people would be into, I feel like, in 2023, which is why this is on Shudder.
Yeah. But I kind of think that's cool. Like, I'm always like, I'm kind of down for the people that are like, they're new to stuff, but they've got that curiosity seat. They're like, and that's why I'm never anti anything, I mean, there's mainstream shit I like too, like, but I'm never anti anything necessarily if it opens up somebody's mind where they're like, say they love Walking Dead. Okay, cool. And then they're like, you know what? I want to explore this a little more. And maybe that'll turn them on to, I don't know, everything from this movie to maybe they haven't seen the Romero stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be, as much as this depresses me, I wouldn't really be shocked if a lot of people that love Walking Dead haven't seen the original Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead or Day of the Dead.
We know for a fact there are plenty of people not watch any of those zombie movies, but love The Walking.
That's depressing.
They probably watch those movies and go, this is boring.
Okay, now you see what I mean? I got a tear. Just call me Johnny One Tear over here.
I mean, that's my point. Like, be careful what you wish for, right? Because then they watch those movies and go, that's boring.
Yeah, you're boring. You're fucking boring.
I mean, Dawn of the Dead is boring if you're comparing it to a show like Walking Dead where zombies are being killed left and right constantly. Like, if your definition of boring is it's not as exciting as this thing that I watch, then yes, technically you're right. It is boring, but that you're missing the point if that's what you were expecting. Dawn of the Dead is not a run and gun, shoot all the zombies movie. That was never the point. Walking Dead, did you know that the humans are the Walking Dead? That's who it's not talking about the zombies. It's talking about the people are the Walking Dead. It's like, I don't give a shit. Like, how's that? I just like when zombies are zombies and they do dumb shit. I don't need zombies. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't need zombies to stand in for anything. Like, zombies are like Dawn of the Dead, zombies don't stand in for capitalism, but they're part of the message of that movie. But like X as Y movies and X as Y things, I'm okay. Like in the horror community, like I don't need everything to be a trauma or grief monster. And zombies and The Walking Dead are kind of all of those things all at once.
Yeah, it's hard to pull off. There's kind of like layers and levels unless you're somebody like a George Romero. George Romero could do it. Like he was a fucking master. But if you're not that good, it's kind of like when like people, like when folk singers get, I don't know why I'm targeting folk. It's why it's hard for political, like overtly political music sometimes to be good. And it doesn't matter what your politics are. It's just, the problem is a lot of times when people go extra, or I'd say that's with like a lot of religious music too. It's all of a sudden they lose the ability or will or drive to be smart or subtle or subversive about it. And it's more, instead of being like, it's like Flannery O'Connor, who's one of my favorite writers, once, and this was like in the 40s or 50s, complained that most religious fiction was terrible because she's like, okay, you're a person of faith. That doesn't give you the excuse to write a shitty book. Well, I shouldn't say shitty, but you get the point, like, okay, you feel this way or the other. Okay, and I haven't watched really any of The Walking Dead for the record. Like, so I'm leveling my accusation at this, but
I've seen the first season. That's all
I've only seen a clip of Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan because my husband showed that to me when he showed up because I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah, he's the best part of anything. He's the best part of that Rampage movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and a giant gorilla. He's in that movie and he's the best part. When he shows up in that movie, it turns the movie around completely.
That's a fine man.
And he's sexy. I was going to say he's a sexy man too.
It's sexy. He's
the father of Sam and Dean Winchester. I mean,
he's the dad of a lot of
he's my daddy.
Yeah. How did it? It's me, Daddy.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, as you've never seen him before. I mean, what's funny?
Dean Morgan.
They like have a spinoff for him in that show now because of how good he was. So,
he's fucking great. Yeah. Like but yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do something, I mean, because actually, we'll use the movie we're talking about, for example, and Hard Rock Zombies, has a political subversive kind of level to it. Now, whether or not that's intentional, again, I think it has to be a little bit just because it's, it's there. It's pretty obvious, but it's done in a fun way that doesn't take you off route from the movie either.
Right.
Like everything feels very copacetic in this universe. And,
even with Nazis. Even with Nazis.
Even with Nazis. And I mean, think about that. Also, we do get to see I shouldn't say little. Is that offensive? I mean, he's a little person, right? Like, I
am not a little person, so I do not know if that's offensive.
I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to offend anybody. I only want to offend people that are dumb. Okay.
Fair. Valid.
Willfully dumb, I will add.
So valid.
Because there's no excuse. Come on. But Phil Fondacaro as zombie Nazi little person attacking a cow?
Yeah.
While this like hee-haw music from hell plays, that's a sight. That is a sight. You won't see that in The Walking Dead. I bet. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I'm betting.
There's a lot of stuff in this movie that's a choice and a weird choice and an interesting choice.
It's a choice.
And I think this movie is better for the fact it decides to just go for it, just really go for it. I mean, again, Nazis, werewolves, Nazi werewolves in Ava Braun's case, Hitler wearing a mask of a man who's just an old man. Yet when he takes his mask off, he's now just another old man underneath who doesn't really look like Hitler. So they had to give him the Hitler mustache to make sure it was Hitler. But he doesn't look anything like it. Like,
you're doubting the authenticity of Hard Rock Zombies, Kurt?
But that's my point. Like, it doesn't try to be any more than it needs to be. And for that, I appreciate it. Knows exactly the kind of wild ass movie it wants to be, which is, again, like a movie that you would put on for a group of people and have a good time with. Because I think it's a movie that necessitates a larger group of people watching it to have a good time with it. Because it's not asking you to take it seriously.
Yeah,
really not.
Exactly. And that's why it's fun. It still gives you a little food for thought, but it gives you a whole lot of fun. And it's just like, it's a fun little schlocky carnival ride. And I do, actually, we did talk about the effects. I can tell, like, if you watch it on Shudder, which is, you can tell, like, that this is one of the situations where some of the gore, whenever you see like some of the real grotty looking gore, the quality of the film gets depreciated. And that's probably because they couldn't find the source, the print. And that was something that did happen, to a lot of films where they would get cut, because they were, there's too much violence or too much sex or whatever. And then you end up kind of having some of the main prints get cut.
Right.
And so you kind of have to almost end up relying on like VHS transfers and stuff like that. But at least we have a full cut. But it's so weird to me because, I mean, the gore in it, that's good. But man, this was not the goriest film by far from the 80s. Like when you have it next to stuff like Maniac and, every 1980s Fulci film, or Day of the Dead for that matter. Like it's not, the gore's good, but it's not like, I was like kind of shocked. I'm like, wow, this was like, it's good. I mean, it's gory, but man, I've seen way worse. Maybe I'm just jaded.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by the low quality moments in the movie. Not because they're low quality, but again, my interpretation was the same as yours. Like these are things that were cut. Yeah, none of it. Like even Jesse, who is impaled upon a tree with knives through his hands and then killed by a weed whacker. Even his death, which should have been rather gory, is pretty tame, and the aftermath of it is pretty tame too. Like I was surprised at how not gory this movie is. Like even the part, like the most we see is really just like decapitated heads or headless, I guess, heads with no bodies. And then at the end of the movie, the head that eats its own fucking face is a pretty good effect.
that was rad. Oh my God.
It's like the best effect in the entire movie. And it's like in the last 2 minutes of the damn thing. Like
and burps, the skull burps after eating his own face. It's so cool. Now I will say the severed head, you mentioned that. One of my favorite gags in this movie, because I believe that severed head belongs to a character named Arnold, because him and his girlfriend are like necking, and she's a red flag, because she keeps being like, oh God, if you ever cheat on me, and he's like, I'm not cheating on you. It's like, and see, this is a good romance advice. If somebody's that clingy already, run.
Yeah.
But he ends up getting decapitated, and his head is in her hands. She goes, Arnold, are you okay?
It's a good moment. And there are some like funny like this movie is funny too. We can't really mention it. Like this is a funny movie. It is funnier than it is scary. I think it's more just like weird and low budget than it is anything else. Like, and that's not a bad thing, but like I think definitely like a lot of the humor also comes from how low budget this movie is and like how absurdly well done it is for how low budget it is.
Yeah, no, the comedy's pulled off really well. And I mean, as you and I think we've talked about this before in past episodes where like mixing bad comedy is a painful thing. And anytime you mix bad comedy with horror, it almost seems especially atrocious because you're just like, come on, guys. Like, this is like, why do you have to like foul up two genres?
Right. Right. Agreed.
And
bad comedies are hard to watch because it's like it's like a bad horror movie in the sense that like this thing has one goal and it can't land that at all. So what are we supposed to take away from this? Like, if it's not funny, but you're trying to be, and I'm not laughing, then you have failed by my approximation.
Oh God. Yeah. Cause I think with other genres that are bad, the worst tends to be you're bored.
Right. Like a bad drama, like a boring drama. It's like, oh, this is just a boring movie. If it's a bad comedy, it's like, it's painfully apparent how unfunny this is from scene to scene and is more grating than the worst drama film or the worst even action. Like action, you can get it. Like some action movies have terrible action, but they're still fine outside of that. Like a bad comedy through and through, if it is a bad comedy with no laughs, it will be hard to make it through it.
Oh my God. It is the worst. I think that's why sometimes when you think about the films that you really hated the most, I don't know about you, but for me, I immediately tend to think about, other than Forrest Gump,
Gotta beat up on my boy Forrest. I see how
yeah, I'm not a smart man.
Mom, I have to go to play football with my friends. Actually, not bad. I haven't done it. I haven't done it since the beginning of that month when we were talking about Forrest. But yeah, I mean, Forrest Gump is whatever. It's a dumb, fucking boring movie. It's not, let me rephrase it. It's not dumb so much as it's like a pandering idiocy that is hard for me as an adult to get behind. But it just could be, it's a boring movie. Like, but boring is whatever. Like, if it's a bad horror movie, like, I just want to turn it off. I don't even want to suffer through it. Like, I don't want, if it's a bad comedy, I'm not going to watch it unless I have to.
Yeah. Like, bad comedies are fucking rough.
Yeah, same with bad horror movies, like the same.
And we've talked about, I mean, like when we did, of course, you weren't on this episode.
No.
But when we did Love at First Bite. And that was weird because that was a movie where at least two out of three of us, not all three of us, had like a memory of loving it as a kid.
Right.
But then revisiting as an adult, not only was it largely unfunny, but it was also like, wow, this is fucking racist. Like, you know, and so that made it even more kind of a rough experience. Or, you know, or like when we did Yellowbeard, because again, like you had a great cast.
Painfully unfunny.
Painfully unfunny. And those I think are almost, I don't know what's worse. Because I've seen both. I've seen comedies that were obscure and bad. But then do you think it's more insulting when you see a comedy that's bad, but it has a good cast? Because you're like, you know what it could be?
Well, I feel like that's a question that like you could level at like most genres. Like, is it worse to have a bad movie with nobody good in it or a bad movie with like Tom Hanks and Bruce Willis and Melanie Griffith and, you know, F. Murray Abraham? Like, and then I've just described Bonfire of the Vanities.
I've got to say, this movie sounds familiar for us.
Right. Exactly. Like, I personally find it to be more of an affront if you have all the money in the world, Disney, and you're unable to do anything with that money interesting. Disney with Star Wars and Marvel. I find that to be more upsetting if you have all these things at your fingertips and you don't do anything with them versus, oh, this is a, you know, again, not maybe the best example in terms of the person. Tommy Wiseau didn't have much of a budget to make The Room, and it shows. But I would still watch The Room because it's fun and weird and decisions are made that are completely wacky.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go watch Doctor Strange 2 again. I'm not going to watch Ant-Man 3 again. Like, those are bad movies that millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars were spent on. What fucking excuse do you have if you can't make a good movie with that much money when people can make entertaining schlocky stuff for, how much was the budget of this movie? Like less than probably $1 million. Like, I would have to assume, like, it is an affront to me when a movie studio is unable to make something of a movie they have that they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on.
You know what? I would sign, still, and deliver that. Agreed. And first of all, there's no reason for movies to be that fucking expensive. Like, especially when there's that much CGI.
It's because of how long the movies are now. Like, everything like that has to be like 2 hours long. So that's what makes them so goddamn expensive. It's fucking nuts. Like, it's crazy because, you know, I'm talking about this movie's an hour and 37 minutes long. I think it's long by maybe 10 minutes. Like, I have spent this year, the later part of this year, watching so many hour-and-a-half horror movies, and I have appreciated it immensely. That I do not. I like Indian cinema is one thing. I signed up for that, and I don't mind the length of those movies because I know they're going to put them to good use.
Same.
The reason that I have no interest in watching a Marvel or Star Wars movie that's more than 2 hours is because I know they're not going to do anything good with them because they haven't for a while now. Pre-pandemic. I mean, I guess Shang-Chi might be the last thing people really have anything positive overwhelmingly to say about, but They haven't turned in anything in the last 2 or 3 years, and they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, give some of that money to anybody else and see what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard.
But as a consumer, you could reward yourself and watch Hard Rock Zombie.
Yeah, you could find it Shudder or on Vinegar Syndrome. I mean, again, two easy to find places. Shudder's like $7 a month, and they have good enough content programming. They're getting better. They have original shows and stuff, but this is the kind of thing that needs to be on Shudder or like a Tubi or a Pluto. Like, these are the kinds of things that are on there that are worth checking out, even though it might seem like this is just some random crappy thing. The problem is it's hard to sort through all of them because there are so many random crappy things on streaming platforms that look like this, but aren't this good.
Which is why it's good to listen to shows like the Culture Cast.
Mm-hmm. And listen to your friends who suggest things to you and say, hey, we should do this. And I said, yes, sure, as opposed to no. So, I mean, I have my issues with Shudder, but Shudder is a good platform for something like this, especially like less well-known, smaller budget canon horror films from the 80s.
Yeah, no, it's Shudder. And I think platforms like this and like Night Flight are really good about having a lot of curation that goes into what they have. I mean, you're not going to love everything, but that's okay because there's a lot of stuff that is worth seeking out and worth checking out. And it's a good mix of stuff that's new and, new and older and weird and classic. And, you get like a good medley.
And I mean, again, there's not a horror movie platform, best I can tell, other than Shudder. So you're kind of, that's what you want to, if that's what you're really hot to trot on, Shudder. And this is like the second thing this month that we've talked about that's on Shudder, because Eyes of Fire is on Shudder as well.
Oh my God.
I think it's the only place that is on Shudder.
Other than the Severin, but now they should put the other cut of the movie on Shudder. But if you want more of that, listen to that episode.
Yeah, but again, like Shudder is a great place to watch things. Like Shudder for me is like a better version of Pluto and Tubi because it does have things I have not heard of. But those things tend to be better than a Pluto or a Tubi. Like, and again, there's plenty of good stuff on Pluto and Tubi. I mean, I've watched more stuff on Pluto and Tubi this year than I think I've ever watched any other year, including Angel Heart on Tubi or Pluto.
Oh, wow.
Or something big we watched this year was on it, and I was kind of surprised. But I mean, they have plenty of stuff on there. But this is like a perfect movie for Shudder, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I would like to remind the audience, me and Chris are getting paid nothing for anything we're making. So
yeah, like I would love to say Shudder sponsors the show, but like, at least they haven't jacked their prices up. At least they don't crack down on password sharing. Like, I remember a time and a place where Netflix was touting password sharing. I think they said love is sharing your password was a Twitter post that they did a couple years ago. Really nice turnaround now that they're cracking down on people sharing their passwords, almost like it was a fucking lie.
Yeah.
But Shudder, I think, has stayed the same price for like a while now. They have good original quality programming for the most part. I'm not a big Joe Bob Briggs guy for a number of reasons, but I know he's very popular. So Shudder is doing a lot. And like I said, I was glad to see this was on there. So
hell yeah. Come on, Shudder.
And I think this is the Vinegar Syndrome rip of the movie, because if you're watching on Shudder at the end, at post credits, it has the Vinegar Syndrome logo that comes up. So that's the other thing. I'm assuming this is just the cut that you would have if you got the movie on Blu-ray.
Right. Which the Blu-ray is pretty sweet. I know it's sweet because I just know their work, but it is a double bill with Slaughterhouse Rock, which has an actress we've talked about before, Chris, because it has Toni Basil. It was in Dracula.
Long ago. It was like a year ago.
Talking about horror comedies with music. This is kind of like our once a year. Like at us, our little tradition here.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, Father Malone was on that episode though, right?
He was indeed.
He's not here though. Do you think he would like this movie? You think he's seen this movie? Right?
You know what? If anybody that we have talked with on other shows has seen it, it would be him.
Right. Like, yeah, like this definitely, like, after being done watching it, I was like, this is totally a Heather thing. Like, and I understand why you picked it. But, like, it also feels like it could have been, like, a Father Malone thing, too.
Well, me and him tend to be very simpatico on a lot of our choices.
Three of us, even. I mean,
we're like a hive mind.
I would say that my favorite, well, I'm curious to round this episode out, to bring us all the way home. If you were to pick a zombie to suggest in this, the spookiest of seasons, where I do so much work that it feels like 2 months worth of work, because everybody wants to talk horror movies, I will ask you the question then, if you were to suggest a zombie movie to someone, what zombie movie would you pick? And then what is your favorite if you have?
Oh, well, that's so hard because there are some that I truly love. To me, it depends on what vein you're going for. If you're wanting something just light, and fun, and then yeah, I would definitely recommend Hard Rock Zombies. If you're looking for something that's truly kind of more chilling for the season, I would recommend Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, which is my favorite Fulci. I love that movie. The House by the Cemeteries. I mean, it's Lucio Fulci. He's a maestro. And if you're wanting something that's just really bleak about the human condition, I would recommend George Romero's Day of the Dead. That's a fucking nerd for you, given 3 answers to one question. Look at
You say Day of the Dead, the movie with Hopper in it? No, that's not. What the fuck is that? Land of the Dead. I'm about to with Joe Pilato.
Oh my God, I love Joe Pilato.
So
oh
good
my
in that
God.
movie.
I'm running this Spooky Farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time.
Boy, what a wild ass. I actually low-key probably like that movie more than Dawn of the Dead just because of that performance. Because it's so weird. It's such a weird performance in a zombie movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like in the best way, though. But you know what I mean, right? Like,
I love it more than Dawn. And I love Dawn of the Dead. Okay, George Romero legit is one of my favorite filmmakers ever. He is the patron saint of horror and of just cinema in general. But Day of the Dead's got my heart.
I'm a huge fan of it as well. Like, it's the one I've seen more. I think the message in that movie resonates with me more. You know, I'm a fan. I mean, I will contend that I think Dawn of the Dead is the better movie, but I think Day of the Dead is the more interesting movie for me personally.
Oh my God.
Father Malone. I mean, he's a huge fan of Dawn of the Dead. I get it.
Yeah.
But I like Day of the Dead personally more. Like I said, I watched Shaun of the Dead recently, and I don't like that movie as much as I used to. Like I haven't
seen it since it came out. I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's fine. I like Hot Fuzz more. I like The World's End more, but Shaun of the Dead really kickstarted part of the zombie trend that we have been dealing with. Like it's crazy because that's part of that equation of Walking Dead is Shaun of the Dead because it was immensely successful overseas and here. So yeah, if I were to answer, my favorite movie also features Hard Rock Zombies. It is not Night of the Living Dead. It is Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, fucking A.
Which is a Hard Rock Zombies movie.
It's punk rock zombies.
I guess those zombies aren't, I mean, it's the same thing like here. It's like what makes the zombies punk rock because they play a lot of punk rock music in the movie. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, these dudes are hard rock zombies because they're a band. Like in that movie, the soundtrack is where the punkiness of the zombies comes from. And they're killing punks. I mean, they're killing punks. So
sure, yeah, but the zombie, I see. Oh my God, Chris, I could kick myself in the ass. Like
I was surprised we didn't mention it.
Oh my God. No, at the early days of the internet when it was like 80% personality quizzes. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. I took one that was what character from Return of the Living Dead are you? Because of course I took that. And I got the character Suicide. Mm-hmm. And I
ever have a dream about being torn apart by a bunch of old men.
Oh my God.
She's a trap.
Oh, that's trash.
Oh, wait, no, okay. Suicide. Wait, who's Suicide?
It's the one that like she's talking, or no, because she's like, I like it spooky. And he's like, have some fucking respect for the dead. And he's like,
yeah,
he's
like the hair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're so spooky. Hey, fuck you guys. Like, he's so angry. Like, and I'm like, oh my God, what does this say about me? No, Linnea Quigley is, oh my God, a fucking goddess. I love her. I love her. I have to sing. Like, we need to do a Linnea Quigley movie at some point.
I mean, we've already done Return of the Dead. Can't do that one.
We can. She's done a lot of other movies. We can.
And I assume that they probably have her naked in a lot of them as well.
It's a safe assumption.
Yeah, the safest of safe assumptions is that she's naked.
Yeah.
Return of the Living Dead is my favorite zombie movie by like leaps and bounds.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
And that would be the one I don't even know if that would be the one I would suggest to people. I still think like Night of the Living Dead hits pretty hard. And like
the game changer, yeah.
And the remake with Tony Todd where they did it in like the 90s was pretty good. Like it kind of gets forgotten, but I think it's just as important. I think, again, Tony Todd, fantastic actor, getting in.
I love him. Oh, that's because like Patricia Tallman as Barbara's great. You got Bill Moseley as her brother. I fucking love Bill Moseley. Tom, I don't. I'm like,
that is the takeaway from any Rob Zombie thing is you let Bill Moseley into your set and you couldn't get rid of him. He's just a crazy
why
man.
would you want to?
I don't know. I love
would-
Bill Moseley, but he seems like I don't think he's like genuinely crazy, but he plays crazy. better
Oh
than
my
most.
God. I would. Oh, I love him so much. And
Mhm.
Tom Tales, who I adore. Tom Tales is such an underrated fucking actor. Most people probably remember him as Otis from Henry, and he's
Yeah.
creepy as fuck as Otis. Like Otis,
Yeah.
honestly, when I saw Henry, Otis scared me more than Henry. Like Otis is so sleazy and just like fucking nasty.
Wants to bang his own sister.
Well, and then I saw Night of the Living. When I saw Night of the Living Dead, which by the way, any of these people making remakes or reimaginings could take a fucking page from Savini's book on how to do a good remake that's respectful to the original one, but still making it your own thing.
Right.
Like that's I agree with you. More people should talk about it. It's really good. Yeah, he's I can't remember that character's name, but he's the father of the little zombie girl.
Mhm.
That's a dick. Thanks, Cooper, like the Cooper.
Gotcha.
Cooper. But Tom Tales, he's in, speaking of Rob Zombie, he's in Devil's Rejects
Right.
as a
is.
ghost, but his main character is Officer Wydell in House of a Thousand Corpses. And I remember when I saw that, it took me midway the movie and I was like, fuck, it's Tom Tales. Because I was like, who's this handsome man? And I'm like, oh my God, it's Otis. It's like, Tom Tales, great actor. That guy should get all the fucking props.
I was a huge fan of him and Henry. I mean, him and Michael Rooker's
Oh.
weirdo energy is that movie seems a little too real every time I watch it, which is fine.
Oh.
I mean, that's the point.
It's just there's only 2, maybe 3 films in my life that have truly unsettled me, like just unnerved. That's one.
I'm a fan, but yeah, no, I think Return of the Living Dead for me would be, that's my favorite. And then Night of the Living Dead is like the one every zombie person needs to watch. Cause I don't want to be that guy, but like it is the zombie movie. And I think it deserves to be treated and watched as such. So.
Oh, it's the OG. I mean, how zombies before then were largely of the Haitian
Right.
voodoo variety and was not, Romero completely changed the game.
Right. And then, 20 years later, we have Hard Rock Zombies.
Which didn't really change the game, but it's
No.
fucking great.
Who
It's
end up
fucking-
looking like, what's the name of the derivation of the band in Phantom of the Paradise where they're all painted in white?
the undead.
Yeah, they look
Oh,
like, that's what I thought of when I was seeing
Yeah.
them in this movie. That's that same, it's not as stark on the face makeup, but they're going for the same thing. Like they're trying to
It's-
evoke the same thing. It's low cost zombie makeup.
Low cost zombie makeup meets Alice Cooper meet kids.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The influences are readily apparent throughout this movie as to who they're trying to go. Yeah, that's our influence.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love it that you mentioned the undead.
Yeah, that's again like they've got the white and the black with like the shapes on their faces and stuff. Like, yeah, they're going in a certain direction and it is well received. So
Yeah. There should be more like horror movies crossovers with hard rock. I would like to see that. I mean, you know what? EJ
I
Curtis is
had an
still
idea for one that I was working on with a friend of mine and we never got to finish it, but it was a movie. It was a horror movie with the band Ghost as
Oh
part of
wow.
like how has nobody done that yet? Is my question.
Yeah.
Like of all the bands right now that are playing music, how has nobody gone Ghost and a horror movie? It would be perfect because they're already in that genre of stuff. Like I thought it made sense and I had a pretty interesting idea, but we never went anywhere with it. But like I've wondered the same thing because for me, the thing that this movie kind of, again, there's moments where it veers into it is like demons. Again, and I love that. I love that movie. And that's kind of a hard rock zombies movie too. It's more hard rock monsters, but the music and everything.
My heart.
Great.
Oh, and the metal. It gets fucking metal at times.
Yeah.
You have the guy literally wielding a large sword, decapitating these demon zombie monsters while except fast as a shark is playing.
Yeah.
Holy fucking it's like 2 giant testicles have descended into the earth and they're made of titanium. And it's just so like
Brass
Okay.
balls.
brass balls. It's so good. It's
It's a movie that I like it up until the ending. And then I think the ending takes kind of a hard shit in that movie, but it's fine.
I like the ending. And you get Bob. You get that little blonde boy from House by the Cemetery.
I think it's weird. Like the stakes of that movie become a lot more ramped up the moment they leave the theater. I'm like, I always forget that that's what happened. I always forget that there's this whole like outside world going on. I always just think like, oh, it's just this one theater. No, it's like the whole world. Well, it's the whole.
Oh, but that's the beauty of Italian horror is, and I would actually say a lot of spaghetti westerns too, like Italian genre cinema has never been afraid to just be like, oh, you want a happy ending? Fuck you. It's like they do not, and that's why I love it. It must be my dark soul. But, that's the
Rain's Dark Soul.
That's new podcast coming out. The Weirdly Media played off. But that's the Ed Fulci's stuff, especially that sort of loose trilogy where you have The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, and oh god. Why am I blanking? I hate this. This is going to be one of those things. Do you ever forget something that and it's so fucking obvious?
Yeah, but that's why post-production.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just cut the show if that's okay. But if it's not too much of an ass.
This is part of the job. Well, now I have to cut it out.
God damn it. I'm sorry. Heather Diva.
Hey, I don't care. I cut this part out. Well, I have to cut it out. You know that now.
I've actually heard podcasts where the host says that.
Take this part out.
Yeah, and that's like,
oh shit! Did you forget it? Did you forget it? Yeah, I wonder why we haven't gotten more hard rock. I mean, we haven't even gotten one of these kinds of movies in a while. Like, I can't even think of a contemporary example. Oh, a hard rock horror movie. Has anybody done that in a while?
Not in a while. I know there's a newer one. I think Deathgasm kind of taps into that. I haven't seen it, but I've seen the trailer. It actually looks cute. I just haven't watched it yet. But as far as but it's not like what we had where you get a slew of movies.
Right.
I will say this, our Jesse, EJ Kurtz is not only still alive, he's still rocking. So I'm just saying, you filmmakers out there, don't remake this or make a sequel to it. Make your own thing. But use some legit hard rockers as your cast. Some of them can fucking act. EJ can act.
Maybe 10 years from now, we'll be talking about the movie that maybe I make. I have no idea.
That would be amazing.
I would love to see a movie with ghosts as the lead in a horror movie or part of the plot of a horror movie. Because, again, your music's so fucking there anyways. Half their songs are literally just about the devil. Thinly veiled songs about the devil. Or...
what does that with me? I'm like, oh.
Yeah, actually, I'm a fan, so.
Oh, I love the earlier stuff for it.
Yeah, they've gotten a little arena rocky.
Aren't really my jam per se, but I love that idea. I think that's so cool. Another band I think that would be great, an artist is King Diamond, who whether it's him and Merciful Fate or him solo, because I mean he's done demonic stories in his albums. Like, why not take that to the next level and make it cinematic? And that just unearthly voice. I think that would be really cool. I'm with you. I would love to see metal and hard rock as genres are so they're like kind of like classical music because they have a bigness about them, a big epicness about them where, and I think about it, what was classical music and opera, but stories of murder and violence and war and royalty and lust and romance and, metal and hard rock especially kind of take that bigness and the epicness of it. Especially when it's, when it's good, but even when it's just fun, that's okay too. And, we're planting these seeds. I want your movie to come true.
I would as well. Again, I don't know why it hasn't, and it very well may be right now in the thing that's happening and nobody knows about it. It just seems like an obvious choice. Like a band that talks about devil worship doesn't have a movie with them in it about devil worship. Or
listen, like a band that gave us lines. Are you on the square? Are you on the level? Are you ready right here?
Right now, for the devil. Oh my God. Or the song fucking Beelzebub, Satanas, Lucifer.
Oh God, I love that song.
I don't understand. Year Zero. All of the music is so angled in a certain way and nobody's just been like, Ghost. So yeah, I should probably just cut all this out of the show. Bleep it all so nobody
keep the ghost.
Push that out into the universe.
This is the copy mark. Or copy mark. Copyright.
Right.
It's a copy mark and trade right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I I love that this movie is a thing, that there are other things like it. I just wish there were more of them, as opposed to it just being like a handful of, like, oh, we've got like an entire subgenre that's still, we get an entry or two every year. And like, that's, you know, splatter movies and body horror and even zombie movies. Like, we get those every year, but not like a metal horror. That seems like a shame. So
yeah. Come on, slackers.
We have Shudder, guys. You can
just
put it on Shudder for fun.
Just what? Yeah. Watch this movie.
Yeah. So, Heather, final thoughts on Hard Rock Zombies.
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me pick it.
Of course.
And curate it. Hard Rock Zombies. I love it. The more I watch it, the more I love it. I think it's an underdog of a subgenre of horror / comedy. Check it out. Great. Some great fun rock music. Great subversiveness, great gore effects. And Jesse is played by a guy that is professionally known as E.J. Curse. What's more fucking horror metal than that?
I couldn't have said it better myself. I will add on that, yeah, if you're looking for something to just have some fun with, you could do worse on Shudder. There's plenty of things on Shudder that are definitely not as much fun as this. Frankly, there's a lot of stuff on Shudder that's not a lot of fun anyways, but that's not the intention. This is intended to be fun, and you're supposed to have a good time with it. And I think it lives up to those expectations of a title called Hard Rock Zombies. And surprisingly, doesn't really fall apart too poorly in the third act, which is a problem with modern horror, almost to the point where I just expect that these movies are going to hit the wall hard in the third act. So it was nice to see a movie from a time before ours not hitting the wall so hard. So yeah, no, thank you for bringing this one to the show, Heather. It was fun.
My pleasure. Thank you.
When you're not here joining me, where can people find the things that you work on?
Well, if we're talking about music, I am very blessed to get to hashtag blessed. Get to co-host along with the great Father Malone and HP on a little show called Noise Junkies, which is part of the Weirding Way Media family. We recently just did an episode dedicated to the star man himself, David Bowie. Do check it out. Of course, I'm a writer. You can find links to my writing, other shows I'm on, and other sundries over at linktree.com/Mondo Heather. I will say, because I did allude to it earlier in this recording, I recently got to record not one, not two, but 3 individual commentary tracks for an upcoming Asperger's Syndrome release, which that's not why I praise them. I would say they do great work anyways. If they didn't, I would just be quiet. That's diplomacy. But Michael Finlay's proto-slasher/art house/grindhouse films, The Flesh Trilogy, which is coming up on Blu-ray. And that one of those films has a scene I alluded to in the podcast. Which one? I'm not going to tell you because I've already listened to it. But yeah, all that and more, just look for Mondo Heather.
And as for me, culturecast.com, patreon.com, Weirding Way Media, places you can go to contribute financially or listen to the other things that Heather mentioned, and some other things I'll mention: 80s TV Ladies, Twisted and Uncorked, Feminine Critique. Those are 3 shows on the network hosted by people that are like me. They're women, and they have great opinions, and they're funnier than me, which is even better, frankly. It's because, you know, I'm not that funny.
You're hilarious.
I know, but I think I find other people to be funnier than me, especially my 2 good friends, Alicia and Sierra, over on Twisted and Uncorked. So yeah, that's where you can go for all the things that I work on or the things that I listen to or interact with on a semi-regular basis. Yeah, Heather, thank you so much for joining me. This was fun, as always.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, my pleasure.
And as always, we'll catch you on the next episode.